You know, I think last season set me up for disappointment by being decent overall that I didn't have much to complain about. It let me feel something I hadn't in decades, with the nostalgic and uncomfortable optimism settling in over my otherwise numb senses. Yeah, that was weird. But before I rush off to celebrate a newfound roundness to my personality, Summer stepped in and said, "Hey, hold my beer." Well, thank my non-existent god, because who in their right mind would listen to someone not completely bitter at the world around them for opinions on anime? So 12 episodes of a number of shows later, my expectations have been suitably lowered. And would you look at that, just in time for fall to trip over the low bar that's been set. And since I sorta gave the game away a bit, I guess let's talk more in depth about summer 2019 anime, in a tongue-in-cheek but ultimately sincere way. I don't know. Summer wasn't great in retrospect. I had shows I liked. The comedies were good. I had shows I thought were okay. Most of the action shows felt middle of the road. And I of course had some crap I wish I hadn't wasted my precious little time left on this earth with. Those shows know what they did, and they tell you themselves, but they're in timeout still until they learn to be better people. But if I had to pick a theme for this season, I'd say it's shows I expected to be good disappointed me, and shows I had high hopes for were the underdogs that eventually won me over. What looked like it would be enjoyable on the surface fell flat on its face, and what looked bland did its job exceedingly well. Plus, one genre didn't monopolize my engagement, so at least things didn't feel stale. Let me break down what I liked. A show I thought did great this season would be Machikado Mazoku. I actually couldn't get enough of this series. Every aspect of the comedy nailed my particular sense of humor with self-deprecating pessimism, but with cute characters that worked well off one another to give the comedy weight. Yuko's patheticness wouldn't mean much without Momo propping her up, and being amazing at just about everything. Love this one, and the girls in it, so highly recommended. Joshikousei no Mudazukai could have easily been another generic comedy, or worse, a Nichijou clone. But with its shallow characters bouncing off one another, and expertly handled cringe, it actually made this one pretty enjoyable week to week. I think the large cast kept it from getting stale, and it was a standout for its style of humor this season. Dr. Stone was a surprise for me, as I really didn't expect much going in. I hadn't read the manga, and the first episode was honestly pretty dull, with a ton of repetition to set the foundation of the series. But it turned it around by having an enjoyable protagonist in Senku struggling to create a modern society in the Stone Age. The show really didn't hit its stride until episode 4, I think. But that's when things start having a marked progression with solid goals that make the cast feel like they're achieving something. Copcraft was great. The animation was complete ass, as well as being all over the place in terms of how shit it could be, finding ways to impress me each week. I found myself yelling "next slide" at a few points. However, while the animation quality was beyond subpar, I found the story itself hitting a lot of beats that made it enjoyable. The buddy cop dynamic, the mysteries, the brutal police procedurals, and clashing of cultures with two polar opposites forced to work together. A unique premise, while pushing the boundaries of a typical Japanese-centered anime, makes this one stand out for that alone. Carole and Tuesday was still a top-tier show for me. Style and personality bleed from this one on every level, with love shown to music from every genre, characters connecting, and a real underdog story that speaks to me. Go watch this if you haven't. And Kanata no Astra honestly blew me away on nailing pretty much everything I wanted from a space adventure. Drama, mystery, exotic locations, and a defined cast that grows closer over the course of their journey. If the core cast doesn't hold your attention, I think the planets they visit might. Something I feel most sci-fi stories don't touch on enough. An all-around great package I kept wanting more from. Following up from heavy hitters like that, it might be easy to see why there were so many bland, middle-of-the-road shows this season. I don't exactly hate these shows, but they're things I'll probably forget about or give a conditional recommend if people are going to tell me they want to check them out. Kimetsu no Yaiba kinda fell off for me, with it getting a bit formulaic. Story is still the weakest part of this show, and others have lobbied that the manga doesn't even do the anime justice. I'll agree with that. Yeah, that moment everyone knows. It was good. Excellent job, Ufotable. But before you get ahead of yourself, let me just say, everybody gets one. I like the setup for this story in the first half more than the payoff in the second half. I did pick up the manga from watching this one, so let me just say, I'm looking forward to season 2. Katsute Datta Kemono-tachi I had some high hopes for. The same guy who did the script for Zombieland Saga was behind the adaptation, but I'm not sure if it's a source material issue or what, because this series felt formulaic and built towards fuck all in its climax. Yeah, there was a lot of bait for a season 2 in the ending, but it really could have used more of that peppered in. Mappa was sort of phoning it in with the animation too, coming off as bland as white bread in an office potluck. Kawaii kareba hentai demo suki ni natte kurimasu ka was pretty okay in retrospect. The animation quality dropped off significantly after the first episode, but lucky for me, the humor stepped up marginally to make the whole thing meet in the middle. At least for an ecchi comedy, it had some moments I didn't hate. And then no Shouboutai was an animation treat, but the storyline itself felt very average. What little intrigue it tried to have that set it apart from other series was a little too late for me to actually build a solid investment. But we'll see where the next season takes us, now that the show's picked up some steam. I was pretty set up to love Given when it aired. Aside from same-sex romances being a soft spot near and dear to my heart, this show was slow. It was one of those where I kept looking at the episode count and wondering when the hell was something actually going to happen. And I didn't really feel the chemistry between the characters come through until the very end. It did at least give me one moment of raw ecstasy. Now for the part of the video where everyone clicks off because the jaded asshole in me is seeping out, and that personality's a dime a dozen on YouTube. Shows I really didn't like or just couldn't have cared less about. If people tell me they're watching these, I'd probably tell them not to waste their time. But there's a theme here with these ones, and that's missed opportunity. Granbelm was something that could have gone either way. Its description was vague and genres open-ended enough that it was going to be good or shit. No middle ground. And look what we got! An unfocused battle royale show with magic mechs in an alternate dimension. The first episode left me lukewarm, and the series going forward had a bad case of who's the main character-itis. None of the major plot points grabbed me enough to care, but I'm sure some people who like Fate Stay Night might enjoy this quick little fix between whatever the hell you want to call iterations in that train wreck of a continuity. Sounan Desu was a pretty dull comedy with a wacky premise that had a pretty low joke per minute ratio, and what jokes they had got stale quick. What do you expect when the main draw of the setting is sand? Didn't hate the characters or the setup, but the execution was lackluster. Maou-sama Retry is an isekai, and I should probably stop there, but no. Honestly, it's not horrible for an isekai, but the animation is complete shit, and the jokes feel one note. The few hype moments the show tries to have is undercut by the crap animation and horrible writing, and is a case of this probably could have been done with a more talented writer. Scratch that. It actually has. A few times. I probably could have liked Uchi no Musume no Tame naraba ore wa Moshikashitara mo Taoseru kamoshirenai more if it wasn't so boring. I have a short attention span as is, and sitting down to watch this show felt like a chore, because there wasn't much to hold my fleeting focus from the calls of porn or some other shit. Cute just doesn't grab me like it used to, and this series could have strongly benefited from a more overarching plot than turn that Dattaru into a waifu. There's an audience out there for this one. but it's just not me. Hey, so hot take. When I reviewed Maou-sama Retry, I gave an offhanded recommendation to Tsuujou Kougeki ga Zentai Kougeki de Nikai Kougeki no Okaasan wa Suki desu ka for being a better isekai parody. Yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and revoke that. Episode 1 set up a nice subversion of the typical tropes. If you were hoping this would be a fun little jab at the cliches of the genre, rein it in because this is just a bad ecchi comedy wearing an isekai skin coat. The one joke this series has is, Mom is OP. And it shoves in some uncomfortable fan service with her rubbing her tits all over her son. And it could have been so much better than it actually was. I had Bem on the back burner when this season started because it aired a literal day before I got my season preview out. And happy to say, I didn't miss much. This show has some cool stuff, a mystery element, and a banger of an opening. But none of it meshed together in a way to form any semblance of a point. Too many balls in the air, and an erratic release schedule. And I just lost interest. And with those out of the way, I usually talk about animation this season. But that's kinda hard when I'm basically critiquing kindergarten classroom quality work against the Mona Lisa.
こうして生きている私の存在こそが何よりもの証拠だ。
That was the good. And it was really fucking good. The rest was pretty shit. Even heavy-hitting animation studios kind of phoned it in, like Lurch with Given. Few scenes looked good there, but on the whole, it was just average. Then again, they were probably preoccupied with Kanata no Astra. The rest were Maou-sama Retry and Uchi Musume levels of trash. So throw the whole damn thing in the bin and call it a day. So let's wrap this up and slap some arbitrary numbers on it. Katsute Kami Datta Kemono-tachi is a solid 5 out of 10 for floundering in mediocrity if it got to go anywhere. Sounan Desu is a 4 out of 10 for squandering a unique premise. Kanata no Astra is a solid 7 out of 10 for being a fun space romp with character growth. Maou-sama Retry is an easy 3 out of 10 for being a miserable slog. Uchi no Musume no Tame naraba, ore wa Moshikashitara Mao mo Taoseru ka mo shiranai is a 4 out of 10 for see previous. Dr. Stone's an 8 out of 10 for being a shonen series that actually managed to grab my attention by the balls and hold on. Nen no Shouboutai is a 7 out of 10 for being a modern marvel in animation. Joshikousei no Mudazukai is a 7 out of 10 for being an above-average comedy show. Granbelm's a 4 out of 10 for being a beauty that's only skin deep. Kawaii kereba hentai demo suki ni natte kuremasu ka is a 6 out of 10 for being an okay ecchi comedy series. Copcraft's an 8 out of 10 for being a sparkling diamond of a story buried in a mountain of shit animation. Machikado Mazoku is an easy 9 out of 10 for being an absolute treat. Given's a 7 out of 10 for a somewhat slow romance story without much chemistry, but still a good payoff. Okaasan Online's a 2 out of 10 for disappointing me beyond belief. Them's a 4 out of 10 for being a confused mess. Kimetsu no Yaiba's second half is a 7 out of 10 for a noticeable dip in story quality. And lastly, Carole and Tuesday's an easy 9 out of 10 Yahtzee points for Pass and Go for being yet another standout in terms of animation, story, and premise. So with all that said, I'm gonna go bury my head in the sand and hope I don't wake up, because any optimism that crept in from spring was killed by summer, and now I'm dreading fall. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and do all that other YouTube stuff, because that really helps me out. And I'd like to give a special thanks to Volcarona for making this video possible. Thanks for watching.